Though the wicked plot schemes, God reigns behind the scenes. Today's focus, Haman's conspiracy and God's protection. Find Foods, 7 minutes a day, 1 Bible a year. Grace and peace, everyone. Our reading today brings us to a new book, Esther, chapters 1 through 4. Our key verse is, Then Haman said to King Aug6, There is a certain people dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom, who keep themselves separate. Their customs are different from those of all other people, and they do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. Esther 3. Earlier we spoke about the return. The book of Esther is set during the exile in the Persian court. The people had first been taken to Babylon, but Persia conquered Babylon and was about to decree their return. The story of Esther unfolds in that context. Haman was the highest official in Persia, second only to King Xerxes, who was the Persian king. The book of Esther is a very unique book. Throughout the entire book, God is not mentioned, yet it is a story of God's deliverance. Not once is the name of the Lord mentioned, not once is God named, yet it tells of his salvation. Today's heading mentions Haman's conspiracy. He was the highest official under the king of Persia, and he plotted to destroy the Jewish people. Why did he want to destroy them? He had his own selfish motives, but even though he held such high rank, God was at work protecting his people. First, let us look at the timeline. After the United Kingdom age came the divided kingdom age, then the exile, and then the period before the return, because we have now entered the era of the Persian Empire. So these are events that took place in the Persian Empire during the exile. A Jewish woman named Esther became queen of Persia. Mordecai was her guardian. Some translations or reference books call him her uncle. I think this comes from differences in translation. Precisely speaking, he was the son of her uncle, so he was her cousin and also her adoptive father. So from the timeline just now, we saw that the events of Esther took place first, and then the return came afterward. First, let us get a general sense of the timeline. King Xerxes of Persia, regarding the names of the people in the story. If you listen a few times, you will remember them. If this is your first time hearing it, at least remember that he was the king of Persia. King Xerxes was a king easily swayed by the opinions of others. His former queen, Vashti, refused to obey him, which humiliated him. So he decided to replace her, and that is how Esther was chosen. Mordecai was an official in the king's palace, a righteous and godly man. He couldn't stand Haman's arrogance and abuse of power. When Haman became the top official, everyone was ordered to kneel before him, but Mordecai refused even when others urged him. So Haman abused his office to take revenge, plotting to wipe out all the Jews. Yet Esther, by means of her position as queen, brought about their deliverance. Throughout the entire book of Esther, God is not mentioned, yet it tells of God bringing deliverance. God worked through Esther, through Mordecai, and even through the thoughts and intentions of the Persian king to bring salvation to the Jewish people. The message of Esther is God reigns behind the scenes to bring salvation. The structure of the book of Esther, it has 10 chapters divided into 4 sections. The Persian king chooses a queen, Haman's plot, the reversal of fortune, and the celebration of Purim. Israel has 7 major feasts, along with 2 smaller festivals. One is Purim, and the other is Hanukkah. Purim commemorates the deliverance brought through Esther. Hanukkah originated during the silent period, which we will cover later. Today's progress covers the first half. The crisis, the Persian king chooses a queen, and Haman's plot. Let us look at the scripture. Esther becomes queen. After these events, King Xerxes honored Haman, elevating him. All the royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to Haman. But Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor. Then the royal officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" Day after day, they spoke to him, but he refused to comply. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor, he was enraged. Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. In the 12th year of King Xerxes, in the first month, the lot was cast in the presence of Haman to select a day and month. And the lot fell on the 12th month, the month of Adar. Esther 3. Mordecai's position was not as high as Haman's, but he held fast to his integrity and godliness. He simply would not kneel before Haman. So Mordecai was an upright and unyielding official. He never forgot that he was a Jew. Serving as an official in the Persian Empire required great caution. I believe the fact that the entire book never mentions the Lord has to do with the environment and their mindset at that time. Having been in exile for decades, two things were happening. First, as I just mentioned, they had to be cautious and keep a low profile. After all, they were living under foreign rule. Second, there was some loss of faith as well. Living in a foreign land, they were unable to offer sacrifices or worship as before. It is like when you stop gathering for years. After decades, the faith fades, especially for the next generation. Yet there were still the righteous and godly who held fast to their faith, regardless of their outward circumstances. Coming back to the story. So Haman sought revenge by abusing his position, intending to destroy all the Jewish people. Here, the scripture explains that this was Mordecai's people. King Xerxes was easily swayed by others, so he listened to Haman's advice and cast lots to choose the date. This casting of lots indirectly shows that it was all under God's control. It also led to Esther having conversations and reflections of her own. In the end, Esther stepped forward and took action to deliver her people. We need to understand that, in those days, anyone, including the queen herself, who entered the king's inner court without being summoned would be put to death, unless the king extended his golden scepter to spare them. So we can see that Esther risked her life to approach the king, becoming the vessel of God's deliverance. A Persian king easily swayed by others. Let us now look at Haman's conversation with the king. Then Haman said to the king, "There is a certain people dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom who keep themselves separate. Their customs are different from those of all other people, and they do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them, and I will give 10,000 talents of silver to the king's administrators for the royal treasury." So the king took his signet ring from his finger and gave it to Haman, the enemy of the Jews. "Keep the money," the king said to Haman, "and do with the people as you please." Then, on the 13th day of the first month, the royal secretaries were summoned. They wrote out in the script of all Haman's orders. The couriers went out, spurred on by the king's command, and the edict was issued in the citadel of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was bewildered. Esther 3. The Babylonian Empire had conquered many lands, and Persia conquered Babylon, so the empire was made up of many different peoples and tribes. In fact, this kind of situation was quite common within the Persian Empire. It all depended on whether someone stirred up the conflict, and Haman was exactly that kind of person. He went even further. He asked the king to issue a decree to wipe them out. And this Persian king was rather unusual. He didn't even bother to verify the facts or look into the matter. He simply agreed. This shows that they did not place much value on the lives of foreigners. As for the city of Susa, where the Jewish people lived, it was bewildered. When the news spread, it meant the complete destruction of an entire people. Let me first share the outcome. In the end, everything was in God's hands. Mordecai said this to Esther, "For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Esther 4. If you try to protect yourself and stay silent, the Jewish people will still be delivered. This shows that Mordecai was upright and truly knew God. He understood that God would surely save them. But if you refuse to be God's vessel, here he was speaking to Esther, if you only seek to save yourself and remain queen, then one day you will perish. How do you know that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? We are in God's hands, and according to our position and our time, everything is perfectly arranged. God will bring deliverance. May every brother and sister in their own position be those through whom God brings deliverance, a work in his hands. The salvation of the gospel is the same. In our own families, our own people, our own nation, there are still many who have not yet believed the gospel. And Haman is like the prince of this world, coming to steal, kill, and destroy. But we, standing in the place of Mordecai and Esther, have been given this position for such a time as this to bring salvation. This, too, is our calling in the gospel. This is an expanded explanation. Let us compare it with another scripture. Surely your wrath against mankind brings you praise, and the survivors of your wrath are restrained. Psalm 76. People have their own intentions, just as Haman's wrath served to accomplish God's good purpose, for God would still bring deliverance. Moreover, through this event, the Jewish people came to know that God was still at work, and it also laid the foundation for the return that would follow. In the same way, in the New Testament, the wrath of the Pharisees, the chief priests, and others against Jesus also accomplished the Lord's glory. Even the crucifixion itself, it was a victory over darkness and death, leading to resurrection. As for the remainder, the excess wrath, God restrains it. When it exceeds his limits, he steps in and stops it. The Lord foils the plans of the nations. He thwarts the purposes of the peoples. Psalms 33. This refers to times when there is opposition. As the saying goes, man proposes, but God disposes. Reading Guide to Esther. The message of Esther is God reigns behind the scenes to bring salvation. Today's setting is during the time of the exile. Chapter 1. The Persian king removed Vashti from being queen. Brothers and sisters, if you can even remember names like King Xerxes, Vashti, Haman, and others when you read the Bible, it means you are already quite familiar with it. When you read these passages, they will come alive. But if this is your first time, just listen for now. You will remember them over time. It is the same with names in movies or TV dramas. The more clearly you remember the details, the stronger the meaning becomes. Chapter 2. Esther is made queen. Chapter 3. Haman plots to destroy the Jews. Haman's conspiracy and God's protection. Chapter 4. Mordecai urged Esther to deliver her people. The entire book of Esther never mentions God, yet everywhere God is at work. Today's focus, Haman's conspiracy and God's protection. Though the wicked plot their schemes, God reigns behind the scenes and delivers his people. Blessed is the one whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. Fine food 7 minutes. See you tomorrow.